ATF Magazine podcast. I am super excited to have a good buddy of mine on the show today. We've been trying to connect for quite a while. We've run together several times. We're both super busy with business, so just like all busy, driven individuals are, we can go 3 days or 3 years, and it's still just like yesterday. But I'm here today with Ernie Medina. He is the owner and chief instructor of TRB Training. They're doing a bunch of cool things. Ernie's got a very interesting background, and he's applied that to chasing his own American dream. And he is, I would say he is exceeding in accomplishing that mission as he has accomplished many missions in the past. So welcome to the show, Ernie.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No. It's my pleasure. So before we get started, we always kick it off with usually easy questions. And it's the same 3 questions, and there's a reason why we always ask these, beyond our name. So first question is, and then the next 2 will be obvious. Do you remember your first experience with alcohol?
Yes, I do. And then I don't remember the last half of that night.
Yeah, right. All right. So quickly, what was that story? How old were you? What was the story surrounding that experience?
Yeah. So actually, it was just before my 21st birthday, believe it or not. And my sister back in Jersey took me out for my birthday, so to speak. And she was just feeding me drinks all night. It wound up being my babysitter, honestly. But we were in Hoboken, New Jersey, tearing up Washington Street, which I believe you might be familiar with.
Yep.
And we hit a bunch of different bars. And I don't know about you, but like the first time you encounter alcohol, the first maybe 9 or 10 drinks, you're like, this is nothing. I don't feel anything.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it hits you all at once.
Well, drink number 1 hits you.
Drink number 1 hits you, but delayed. And it did just that. And it was just a night to remember and a night to forget, essentially. I remember, I think I got 15 or 16 drinks deep that night. And and by the way, just, I kept all of my cookies in. And
nice sister, by the way.
Oh yeah, she was great. She was totally enabling this, and she was like, "Yeah, go, dude." I was hitting on girls. I was doing things that I probably shouldn't.
Fearless.
Yeah,
fearless.
She was
the best version of you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love
the best and the worst.
thank God it was before smartphones and videos, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So then where this is going, and I, there's been nobody that I've asked that hasn't experienced this, but I know you're a veteran, a former U.S. Marine. So what was your first experience with tobacco?
First experience with tobacco had to be my first cigar. I never smoked cigarettes growing up or anything like that, but my first cigar was in the Marine Corp. We were in the field, and I'm trying to remember this. We were in the field. We were sitting around after we'd done our range stuff for the night. Me and a bunch of lieutenants and a couple of the CLs, the captains, were just having a cigar, and some of us are sharing a cigar. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I'm thinking, do you inhale? Do you not inhale? Like, I'm a total noob, right? And of course, this is the butt of a few jokes. And so, my fellow Marines were just teaching me how to smoke a cigar. And yeah, it was my first encounter. It wasn't the best encounter. Right?
It never is.
Right. So, but then, of course, repetition begets a little acquisition of taste.
Right.
From there. But I would say that my taste for cigars came when I was stationed in South America, and I could get access to, all the good stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. And then last question is, what was your first firearms experience?
First firearms experience where I actually shot a firearm was actually in my boot camp training. So in my plebe summer over at the Naval Academy, where is our boot camp, that was the first time I ever shot a firearm. It was a Beretta 92 or M9. And we were there as part of the training. And I tell you, the first time I shot a gun, I stunk. And in fact, I will tell on myself that the first time that we qualified that time, I failed. I absolutely failed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, you've come a long way.
Yeah, I have.
I always ask those because no matter what our age is or what else we've done in life, what industry we're in, for some reason, the second I ask those questions, everybody immediately smiles, and then they immediately remember every single detail associated with that, and it's kind of why we put together this magazine, is because I think these things in a lot of ways are synonymous with America, right? It's
Mhm.
it's synonymous with our brand. We've spilled blood. We've battled over these things. We continue to battle over the rights of these things.
Mhm.
They're very polarizing. Everybody has an opinion about them. Which is kind of the foundation of America, right? Is having that freedom to engage or to have an opinion and not engage,
Mhm.
to judge, to do whatever it happens to be, and those are the freedoms that we continue to fight for. So,
Absolutely.
I love walking back on memory lane a little bit, because everybody's got an interesting story relating to all three of those, and they all seem to be, for men especially, women are the smarter species, clearly. But for guys, I remember as a kid, like, it always seemed to be alcohol, tobacco, and firearms that, from 5, 6, 7 years old, it was like I was just dying to get my hands on it because I'd
Right.
see the grown-ups, sitting around looking cool like the guys in the movies, and smoking or drinking or shooting guns, and it was just like, man, someday I want to do that. And
Right.
just that rush to being a grown up, so everybody remembers.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned New Jersey, Hoboken. Tell me quickly about your family and your upbringing.
Yeah. So I hail from Jersey. I was originally born in New York, raised in Jersey City, New Jersey. I'm one of four kids. I have a sister who's still in Jersey now. I have a sister who is in the People's Republic of San Francisco. And she's the black sheep of the four.
Yeah,
And then I have a brother who recently moved to North Dakota.
nice.
Yeah, and so grew up in Jersey, really as a city boy. I really didn't get much. Like I had never been hunting. I had never smoked anything, that kind of thing. I really didn't get my taste of, like, I guess, manliness until I entered service in the military. But grew up there, went to high school in Jersey City, and then went off to the Naval Academy in Maryland. And that's really where kind of like my eyes opened to, like, what else is out there.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Well, tell me about that. Like, what prompted you to join the military?
Well, I I've always been in something regimented. So growing up in Jersey, I started martial arts when I was 6 years old in '87. And I'd always been in something regimented like that. And it was very militaristic in that sense, had very strong instructors and teachers like that. And I gravitated and thrived in that kind of environment. And I knew from my dad serving in the Vietnam timeframe from '68 to '70, and my brother also serving in the Navy, that I wanted to do that. Plus, I've always been, ever since I was a little kid, I've always been fascinated with military stuff, GI Joes and this and that, right?
Yeah.
Like, totally my bag. And so that's what really prompted me to serve.
So you went into the Naval Academy. You didn't just go down to a recruiting office and be subject to great marketing and videos and say, I want to do that.
Well, yes, I
You
did.
did.
I
Yeah.
did. But I also looked into things like, the Naval Academy and other things. In fact, I also looked into ROTC. A little fun fact is I was actually, when I applied for a ROTC scholarship, I got denied, but then I got into the Naval Academy. What gives?
Go figure, right?
Right. So So yeah, I did look at other things. I did talk with an Army recruiter. I did look at other things. So I wasn't just looking at the Navy or the Marine Corps or the Army. In fact, what pushed me in the direction of the Marine Corps was one of my martial arts instructors, who today is a really, really good friend and mentor. He retired as a master gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps, but when I was training with him and I expressed interest, he's like, let me show you the way, son, and gravitated me towards the Marine Corps, and that's what made me want to go Navy Marine Corps team, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. So how was your time in the military?
You know, it was interesting. Some of the greatest times of my life, some of
Yeah,
the toughest times of my life, and some of the things I like personal growth off the charts. And I experienced a lot of things while I was there, and really taught me that there's more out there. It taught me a lot about life, how to be a man, how to work with other people, and just all these things. It just opened my eyes to really what the world is.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So then you decided not to make a career out of that. You
Right.
exited the military,
Yes.
and what'd you do then? Because you didn't jump right into following suit and starting your business.
No, no, no. Actually, it was funny. I was deciding what do I do, right? And at one point, I was actually in the process of applying to be a police officer. So I was actually in that kind of process, and that didn't come to fruition. And then the other thing was I actually started my own practice as a financial advisor with Northwestern Mutual, which I still actually have today. So I actually have three businesses. TRB is one of them, but started a practice with Northwestern Mutual, and did that and done that really for 11 years now. But it was about year 4 or 5 that I realized that, you know, I always say I sold my soul to the devil, and I sold out for what people thought or what, say, being a married man should do. Make money, have nice things. The
Wear
OC
a
life,
suit,
wear
drive
a
a
suit.
sedan, have a cool
Exactly,
watch. Yeah,
exactly. And in the heart of hearts, that's not me.
right.
And it was funny because growing up in high school, I would always joke around with my friends and even my mom, like, I don't want to become a yuppie or anything like that.
Right.
and I wake up one day and I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I'm like, I've become what I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I sought out to change that. And I started TRB because that's where my heart is.
Yeah. Well, we met actually, way, way, way back, and I
Hmm.
remember when you started TRB,
Yes.
and you talked about it very passionately, and you had this vision, and I mean, number one, starting a firearms training company in Southern California, the most, commie state in the nation.
Right. Check my
I
temperature,
mean,
right?
yeah, exactly. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You're making a great living over here, and you want to go over here and teach, a bunch of California liberals,
Hmm.
how to shoot guns. Like, good luck. And, the limited number of places we can even shoot guns, the limited number of guns we can even own.
Oh yeah.
Like I could go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just took that that Marine attitude of, hey, it's a hill, let's conquer it, screw
Right.
it.
Right.
And you just willed it to be, and here we are, right? So tell me a little bit about what your initial vision for TRB was. Like, so you're sitting there in your suit in your yuppie condo driving your yuppie car, and you're probably sipping like a freaking martini or something at the end of a long day of financial planning,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
you think, man, I miss my combat boots, and I miss rolling around in the dirt, and hey, let's start a training company. So what was that vision, and what did you imagine it to be, before you even started it?
Yeah. Well, it started out actually as a side gig, and really was subconsciously an escape from my marriage at the time. And it was something I was doing on the weekends. And at about 2018, I believe. Yeah, 2018, I believe. Um, it flipped over into full bore. That's my vision, and the vision was to provide training that was above and beyond what we see out in the marketplace today. I just get so frustrated, and perhaps you as well, is that there's a lot of great trainers out there. There's a lot of not so great trainers out there, but there's a lot of instruction here in, say, California that's like your granddaddy's NRA. It's like, here, Timmy, let me just, keep the firearm loaded and put it in a box when you're not using it. And yeah, you can hit 6 inches away from your intended target. You're doing great. And
Right.
I just shake my head.
Right.
and and I'm just like, there's so much more to this, and that's not the standard. That's not what we should be celebrating. And so my vision with that was to take practical application, to take what I know from serving the military, from my practice as a martial artist, and my knowledge about firearms, and believe it or not, just a knowledge about overall like physics and how things work,
Right.
and take all those things together and uh, raise the bar on standards and training to your average Joe, because they can do it and they want it. It's not available, or at the
Right.
time wasn't available.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about that because, I'm a big believer in, the 10,000 hour concept or
Oh, yeah.
10,000 repetitions or that you have to develop muscle memory because in a panic situation, you're already thinking about environment and situation and threat and, everything else. And you don't need to be thinking about fundamentals of how to defend yourself.
Right.
Um, and I think that there are a variety of trainers out there. A lot of them try to be tactical. They have no fundamental background, and they just, because they put on a vest, they're the guy.
Right.
And that results in a lot of bad experiences and a lot of bad lessons. It seems like the other extreme is a lot of very, very, very well trained elite military.
Yes.
Um, with that, there is absolutely no discounting their skills or their training or the lessons they have to teach. But, in a civilian, residential, you know, typical civilian threat scenario, um, I don't necessarily know how applicable some of these lessons are. And honestly, like I even see, a lot of our LEO going through trainings like that, and they're struggling even to grasp, the strategy and the conceptual understanding of the application that's being taught
Right.
because it is just so unique. And until you're in that situation yourself, it's hard to understand that. So what I love most about your training is number one, um, you're a stickler for fundamentals, which as a former Marine going through boot camp, I'd expect no less. Um, but also it's very realistic, practical drills and applications that would relate to what a typical person could encounter.
Right. Right. And that's and
So yeah, go ahead.
no, and that's the thing, is that take the knowledge of what can be done on this extreme, and how do we take those fundamentals and apply it to what your everyday person is unfortunately going to encounter, and show them that it's somewhere in the middle, right? That we
Right.
don't have to be crazy, special forces guy, but at the same time we can apply some of that knowledge and apply it to what unfortunately folks may encounter.
Well, and that's a good segue. It's an interesting time in America, and it seems like, um, depending on who you're surrounded by, um, you're that gut instinct that hopefully we're all born with and hopefully hasn't been beat out of us or trained out of us. Or I do see some dogs that are so domesticated they don't even seem like a dog anymore. They seem like a little baby or something.
Right, right,
But my dog's a German Shepherd, so my dog still has a lot of instinct. And uh, and I'd like to think I still have a lot of instinct. And I just kind of walk around. I listen. I watch, And my gut instinct says things are getting a lot more tense.
Mhm.
People seem angry. People
Yes.
seem impatient.
Yes.
They all seem much closer to that breaking point. And you see, in a lot of scenarios, the slightest little thing sets the spark that causes the explosion, right? And the morning news in urban areas all across the nation, now is akin to the daily body count, right? Like we might as well be at a time of war where, we're giving the daily body count, of troops lost.
Right.
And that's in a lot of areas. That's what it feels like. But the scariest thing is, I think the false sense of security that some people in urban situations or rural, even rural situations, they believe they're insulated from that because, oh, my neighborhood's nice, or oh, I live behind a gate, a gated community, or whatever it happens to be. And I think, to me, my gut instinct says, man, like I carry 24/7. That doesn't mean that I walk around, waiting for the apocalypse. I don't believe we need to prep. I don't believe, I need to load up the truck right now and head to the mountains with, 2 years worth of food. But, but I can tell you, it feels like the odds of getting into some sort of a conflict or being a person that has the capability of helping somebody else, um, those odds are increasing. What do you think?
I think you're spot on with a lot of what you said. I mean, I think there's a lot of frustration from all different sides, right? I think there for the people like you and me, we are highly frustrated because the concept of honor and integrity, doing the right thing, is lost, and that frustrates us, right?
Right.
At the same time, those that are coming behind us, so to speak, they're not being taught discipline, watch your mouth, respect people. So they're very much so apt that at the drop of anything, they will say something or do something that will then beget more intensity or violence, right?
Right.
And then you have the people that are caught in the middle. Let's just say that are like, I'm just trying to live my life, but then I've got lawlessness around me, and my tax dollars that are supposed to keep me safe because I'm supposed to have a cop on every corner, they're not there. Oh, or if they are there, then they're not allowed to do their job, right? So there's that frustration of those in the middle. So now everybody is on, like, walking on eggshells. They're on high alert, and you have everything that I just mentioned. You have increased amount of drug use. So you have people that are doing those things, and I'm
They're out
surprised.
of their mind.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm surprised if I ever go to a gas station and I don't see a tweaker.
Right.
you know,
Right.
it's a rarity. But that's the thing, is that the pot has been stirred to the point where people of all different types, call them good, call them bad, call them whatever, we're all frustrated in our own way, depending on the lens that we look through.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a good point. And so taking that, steps further, like whether we live in, California or, rural Kentucky, I think, for me, the same premises, it has always been the case. Like I always try to think ahead, to plan ahead, to be
Right.
prepared. We all make sure that we have a spare tire on the car.
Right.
We make sure that we've got a bottle of water in reserve, right? Like I hope everybody does these basic things. um, you have some extra money in the bank account as a rainy day fund. We plan for retirement. Hopefully, people think and plan ahead, right? um, so with this, one of the areas of your training organization that has become, I know, a rapidly growing portion of what you do in training is CCW.
Right.
And that's, and in California, that's especially unique. There's other states that make that much, much easier.
Right.
Honestly, in a lot of states, it's easier than us registering our car in California. I know this from experience.
Right.
But nevertheless, it is good law-abiding citizens pursuing legally their right to conceal carry and defend themselves, beyond the borders of their home.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about, your experience with, especially Californians, which is interesting. And I do know this segment of your business is growing very quickly. So tell me just generally, what are people saying? What are people feeling who are coming to you saying, "Hey, I want to get my CCW," and then once they get it, once you help them get it, what have you experienced on the back end
Right.
of their experience in terms of continuing their training and becoming comfortable with that firearm?
Right. Well, people come to us because there's a lot of times there is this fear, if I can say, of like, how do I get this CCW in California, this unicorn of a thing? And it's really actually not that hard, especially now. But if you live in Orange County, LA County, and those places, it's actually not that hard and hasn't been for quite some time. It's just a matter of the steps. So I won't bore you with the steps, but the
No.
folks that we get in the class, by and large, they might say that they're there because, oh, I want to, protect my family and so on. They'll give you the on the surface, the diplomatic answer. But once we get past that, I call the elephant in the room and I say, this is the reason why you're really here, and it's because you're on your way to the gym in the morning at 6 a.m. and you get accosted by a bunch of bad guys. You're driving and mind your own business, and a mob of people take over the intersection and try to rip you out of your car, right? All the things that people see to be true today, and it scares them, and they're driven to
Right.
the class or to pursue their CCW
Yes.
by a legitimate fear of their own safety and their family's safety. So that's what we
Well,
see.
I mean, another person I'm good friends with, I mean, he refers to a firearm as the great equalizer, right?
Mhm.
And while you and me, may be able to defend ourselves hand to hand or whatever, we can look around and MacGyver together to combat the situation. If your 75, 80-year-old mom is home alone and two 22-year-olds, strong armed through the front door,
Right.
um, what do you expect mom to do exactly? I mean, if mom has access to a firearm, now all of a sudden it's closer to a fair fight. And there is nothing else that you could put in mom's hand
Right.
that would equip her to be able to defend herself and her home and whatever rest of the family's in the house. So I assume you get women. I assume you
We do.
get people that are new to firearms.
We do.
What's some of that experience like?
We get people from all different types and experience levels. We get men, we get women,
I
and
bet you even get liberals.
we do.
Oh my! And
We do. Actually, there was one gentleman in my class not too long ago that actually was wearing a Biden hat in the class, and it was kind of interesting. But for me, I'm agnostic to all that. What I care
right,
about is that people there to train, and we take politics out of it. I have my own, of
right,
course. We take it out, but we get people from all walks of life, new men, women, that kind of stuff. But what's interesting is that the way we do our class, we really like to reinforce the practical application before we even hit the range. I make people dry fire the crap out of all the drills that we're going to do. So that way, when we get on the range, whether you're a newbie or an experienced person, we're all going to be doing the stuff together. And I tell people, because I only have 16 hours with them, a 2-day course, I tell people right from the beginning, what we cover in this class barely scratches the surface on what you should be practicing or doing to properly carry that firearm outside the home, right? I only have you for 16 hours, and if I had my way, I'd keep you 5 days. I'd train you 18 hours a day. I would starve you. I would make you
yeah,
sleepy and all that stuff, and expect you to perform. But like they
yeah,
won't let me do that.
right,
But we get people to an equal playing field and give them the practical tools to be successful just to carry that firearm safely.
yeah. So, it's interesting, just like we all have a variety of friends. Not everybody, has a guerrilla tactical background, like
Right.
us or anything. And, people kind of, are always curious about that. But, there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that even, they go through your 16 hours and then they kind of check the box and say, okay, I'm ready.
Right.
I don't even have to ask you what you think about that because you and I share the opinion that, I believe training and lessons never end.
Correct.
I'm a lifelong student. I will never, in my mind, by my definition, excel at anything. Because there's always a new variable, there's always a
Mhm.
new scenario, there's always a new drill, a new,
Mhm.
something, right?
Right.
And also, as time goes on, these are perishable skills.
Yes.
So, even if I was still in my 20s, which I'm not, um, you take a 6-month break from something, you're not as sharp as the day that you exited, right? You've
Absolutely.
got to rebuild those skills. You've got to
Absolutely.
rebuild that muscle memory. So, you know, talk a little bit about your philosophy of kind of ongoing lifelong training and readiness.
This is just like anything else. Everything you said is absolutely spot on. It's perishable. And if you're going to commit to the lifestyle of carrying concealed or carrying a firearm or whatever, right, then you should be committing to the practice, the discipline of being able to employ that weapon effectively and safely, because you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, and you owe it to everybody around you. So I always tell people in our class, you're only half as good as your worst range day in real life. So we all have good range days and bad, but if you take your absolute worst range day and the day that you say, "Hey, I forgot how to shoot," and you cut that performance in half, that's how you're going to be in real life. And if that scares you, good, keep training.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
So
it's interesting. I had a buddy over a while back, and we were talking about he was new to CCW, and was kind of sharing our mindset that things are getting a little bit crazier, and everything else. And this guy was he's thrown a good share of lead down range, and
mhm,
says that he goes the same range, and he's got this routine. It's part of his routine. He works out, he this, he that, and once a week he goes to the range. And I said, so, it's 3, 7, 15 paper targets, inside the stall, controlled lighting, no rapid fire, and no holster draws. But, you're throwing, what, 100, 200 rounds a week, downrange. Yeah. I'm like, so you're ready? He's like, yeah. I said, have you ever done, a dry fire drill in the middle of the night while you're in your underwear in complete darkness, while your gun is wherever you keep it at night, and go through the exercise of clearing your entire house single man? And by the way, does your wife know what to do when you whisper out that code word of contact or whatever your word is? And does she know where to go with the kids? And do your kids know what to do? Have you turned that into a family exercise and drill, just like a fire drill or an earthquake drill or anything else? And have you gone through the scenario if you heard a downstairs window break, if you heard the garage, if the car alarm goes off, if you hear a noise upstairs, if, right, go through all these different scenarios? And have you gone through that drill, dozens enough times
right.
so that when you're awakened from a deep sleep and you shoot up in your bed and, you know, minutes feel like seconds
Hmm.
and you feel like you have to jump to action, right? Because in your mind, maybe that was the third or fourth noise. Maybe
Right.
the first noise didn't wake you up. Um, like, have you gone through those drills? And, this is a pretty proficient guy. He shot a lot of guns and he just kind of sat there with a straight face, like, shit, no. It's like, all right, well, you know what? Like, paper targets don't shoot back at you.
Right.
I would guess your pulse rate doesn't even fricking move anymore when you're shooting at paper at 7 yards, right?
Right. It's
So so lay there in bed in the middle of the night, and even if you want to do it when the family's out or something, lay there and for at least 2 or 3 minutes, close your eyes and using the power of your greatest imagination, try to mentally put yourself in that mindset that, oh shit, somebody just broke into my freaking house.
Yeah.
And move through that house, you know, with snap caps or a laser or whatever it is that you want to use to dry fire drill, and clear that house single man. And every time you step into a room and you go, shit, if he would have been in the closet, or if he would have been under the bed, or if he would have been behind this door, I'd be fucking dead right now.
Yeah.
Then go back and start over. Get back in bed and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, until you can clear that entire house, every angle, every door, with leaving yourself minimally exposed. Then move on to another drill. Now the car alarm went off. Now whatever, you know, somebody came in during dinner and grabbed your wife. Like, you know, there's a million scenarios my imagination can come up with.
Yeah. All the scenarios you just painted have actually happened.
Yeah. What do you do if somebody tries to jack your car when you're pumping gas? What do you do? Like, I mean, all these are totally possible things. Every single night on the news, they talk about that shit happening, right?
All the time.
All the time. Somebody, you know, get it, you know, tail, you know, bumping you at a red light, and you think, oh, he just wasn't paying attention. Now he's just waiting for you to get out of your car so he can jack your car, or steal your purse, or, you know, rip the Rolex off your wrist and go running down the street with it, or right. There's a million scenarios, unfortunately, now that we have to train and be ready for.
Right. And the thing is, you will never be able to train every scenario. You just can't.
No.
Right. So what you need to do is first train your mindset, right? Train your situational awareness. Understand the deep effects of fight or flight and what that all entails, the physiological responses and things like that, because your body chemistry and your brain chemistry physically changes in fight or flight, and can either help you or absolutely hurt you, right? So those are like the first things. Then the fundamental things. Great, I'm glad you can shoot straight. Can you shoot straight with your hands sweaty? Can you shoot straight with, you know,
in the dark?
In the dark, moving
right
in a compromised position, right? Can you employ,
have you ever shot in the dark?
Correct. You know? Or can you employ that super flashlight that you have on your gun that you bought because it thought it looked cool? Do you know how to employ that?
Right. Well, so, and even other stuff, you know, one of the things that I like about your company is, you know, not only do you reinforce the value of training, but I think you give very practical solutions to the training problem, right? I mean, a lot of people, you know, especially in urban areas, you know, if they go at all, they're thinking, hey, I've got to go to that indoor range and fire at 7 yards, and it's got to be controlled 2 seconds, you know, in between every round, and blah, 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 right? That's my only outlet for training. Right. And, you know, what we talk about, you know, I know, and, you know, it's probably your influence that, you know, has planted that seed in my head is, you know, you can train with anything, anywhere. You know, you can even just mentally train without a firearm in your hand. And I'm constantly doing that is, you know, like, okay, I'm just walking down the sidewalk right now, you know, carrying Chipotle to the car. But hey, you know, if somebody came up and grabbed my collar from behind, you know, what would I do, right? I've got a bag of food in my strong hand. I carry on my strong side. Right. Like you have to think, okay, instinctually, would I know to drop the food, you know, use the elbow to clear the hold on the shoulder while then I, you know, drop and, you know, pull my weapon and create distance. Right. And, you know, another drill that I love doing at home, I turn it into a game with the kids. And of course I don't have my gun when I do this, right. But, you know, but still it's closing distance. And I think that's the other fallacy people have is that they think every engagement's going to start with 50 yards notice. And that you're going to see this guy in slow motion from 50 yards away, yelling and threatening and everything else. And then he's going to slow motion, pull his weapon and wave it around and give you plenty of warning. Whereas, you know, my favorite drill to do with on the LEO side is, you know, giving any rookie, you know, you pick the distance. You pick the distance. and you say go. You tell me at what distance you feel safe from me, and you can pick any distance you want. And it's your job when we hear the timer go off, I'm going to start closing that distance and you need to draw.
Okay.
Go. You pick
Go.
the distance.
Yeah.
And of course, nobody picks enough distance because you can close distance in an insane amount of time. So like with the kids, I'll back them up 25, 30 yards and
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, okay, daddy's got to get you before you get me. Go. And I mean, I'm just pulling out my hand from the holster position, but still it's a game. But I'll tell you, even with two little kids, 5 and 11-year-olds running at you, like when you say go, you want to get them before they get you.
Exactly.
And it is amazing, I mean, when you're wearing shirt out or your appendix carrying or your 3 o'clock carrying, or you throw on a jacket and a hoodie and you do whatever, or you're carrying your smaller versus your full size, like just getting that unconcealed draw to
Right.
ready in that from the and that's even with notice when you're setting off the alarm saying go. So
Right.
most of the time you're going to lose a second to 2.5 seconds just with your mind going, holy shit, is that guy really running at me with a freaking knife right now?
The state of denial.
Absolutely, this can't
Yeah.
be happening. I
Right.
can't have to pull out my weapon in this public situation and kill this guy in a 7-Eleven parking lot. Like,
Right.
there's got to be another option right now, right?
Right, exactly. And it's the same thing. I always tell people, it's like, think about it. You're cruising down the freeway and somebody does something stupid in front of you, as we all know. You always, before you maneuver, you say, what the? And then there's that time gap, right, of what the and then action. That's called denial. It's the same thing you just described,
Right,
right?
right.
And how fast or not fast we move through denial can either be the difference between us winning or losing.
Well, and it's with a car, it's one thing because
Sure.
that and that's kind of always the equation. Like I say, like, every one of us trains to muscle memory every single day, right? You don't think about, oh, this is how I turn and this is how I brake and this is how, because we all have 10,000 hours behind the wheel. So
Hmm.
that time of processing denial action, right, is milliseconds in most cases, but you do go through that process.
Oh yeah.
Now, how long does the process take to somebody inexperienced with a
Mhm.
firearm
Much longer.
and inexperienced with assessing flight or flight, processing adrenaline, assessing life and death situations? You're like, is this something that I can de-escalate in the next second and a half before he reaches me? Does he really intend on killing me? Like, if I pull out my gun and I kill this guy in the parking lot, oh my God, like, I'm going to get arrested. I'm
You
going
are.
to go to jail. Like, what if I'm found guilty for murder?
Yep.
Like, what if their family sues me and I
Mhm.
lose everything that I have?
They
Like,
will. Yes.
maybe, maybe I should just let him stab me and maybe he won't kill me, right? Like, right, all these things in milliseconds run through your mind
Yes.
if you haven't trained every possible scenario,
Right.
at least mentally, if not physically as well.
Right. And all it is at the end of the day, it is all about freeing up mental bandwidth. Okay.
Hmm.
Because if the act of drawing your firearm and things like that take up mental bandwidth, you now have less mental bandwidth to make good
Right.
decisions. Right.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
all this stuff, all your physical skills should be to the point where they are mindless, thereby freeing up that mental bandwidth so you can assess the situation and make good decisions, right? Because not all the situations are going to be exactly how you trained it. So you need to be able to adapt some of those things. And part of, like, it's kind of funny you said this earlier about training, it doesn't have to be at the range. You're absolutely right. So something that you can do is simply training scenarios and just talking through them. So, like, say for me and my significant other, or say you and the kids, or you and the wife, right? You can say, all right, so you're driving in your car, you get accosted by a mob. What do you do? Go. Tell me what you do, right?
Well, as sick and bad parenting as this may be, like, and I don't think any of our audience will be appalled, but I mean, if this lives and certain audiences hear it, they'll be appalled at my parenting. But anytime I sit down with my family in a public place, at a restaurant, a
Oh
movie
yeah,
theater, or anything, and my kids are 5 and 11, and I've been
yeah,
doing it since, my first daughter was probably 3 or 4.
yeah.
Um, I say, okay, so how many exits are there in this building? How
Hmm.
many people do you think there are in this room? Um, if somebody comes out of a bad guy comes out of the bathroom, what would you do? If a bad guy came through that door, if two bad guys came through that door, what would you do? Right? And it's a game,
Right.
and as sad as that is, because believe me, I hear myself, I hear that, I think about that. It's just like, good Lord Almighty, like, why should I have to do that? Why should I have to steal that innocence from my children to have them think about these horrible things?
Right.
Because they're they are remote possibilities, but I'm not willing to gamble with my life or my family's life on the slim chance that I beat the odds. Because you look at my life, odds are, if there is a 1 in 100 chance that some bad shit's going to fall on my head, it's going to fall on my head. Like, that's just, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Perfect.
yeah, I mean, the only way I know is the hard way, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so I don't know, like, I think that it's obviously it's a personal decision, right?
Yeah.
As to how far you go with it, what your mindset is about all of this. But, I view it the same way as a spare tire.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what? There's AAA. At this point, like, why the F do we still have to wait? With the price of gas and everything else, why the fuck do we still have spare tires? Just call AAA. Well, you know
Right.
what? Like, if Wendy's can't hire enough people to flip the burgers, I bet tow truck companies are having a hard time too.
Yeah.
And you know what? If my car gets a flat on, I-15 from Vegas to Orange County, and it's 113 out there, and you know what? I could be sitting in the middle of the freaking desert
For
and
a
die
while.
from heat before AAA shows up to tow my car somewhere. So you know what? I better have a solid spare tire. I better know how to change it.
Right.
Um,
And that's the thing is like a lot of times we do room clearing and CQB type classes as well, actually integrated into some of our advanced CCW classes. But people always challenge us and say, why? Why do you teach that? You shouldn't be clearing a house by yourself and this and that. Why do you
of
even need
course,
to know that? And I always tell them, you know what? You're right. I don't want to clear my house by myself. It's a dumb move. But you never know when you have to, but let's just say a loved one's inside there and you got no choice, first of all. Second of all, how can you appreciate the suckage of clearing a house by yourself if you've never actually tried the techniques and understand and appreciate how difficult it is, right? So to say like, why would you want to train that? Or in the case of the AAA example, why would you even need to learn how to change a tire? Well, what if I have no choice? I
that's it.
refuse to be helpless. I refuse to not have the
Yes.
option, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, if I get a flat, yeah, sure. Probably the first thing I'll do is call AAA and see what the ETA is. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't enjoy changing tires. I don't enjoy, clearing houses by myself. I
Right.
don't enjoy clearing 3-story staircases ever, no matter how many men I have. Right?
No,
Like,
that's a bad day.
right. But you know what? Sometimes you got to go up the fucking staircase.
Right.
And if you do, it'd be helpful if that wasn't your first time attempting to do it, because you'll probably be dead. So,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
so I mean, that's my approach towards everything. It's why I especially appreciate your style of training, because you said it best. I think there's a lot to be learned, from military and special forces applications, fundamentals, foundations, but you do an excellent job of spinning those into, more civilian digestible applications.
Yeah, and that's what we try to do is we, if I can say this, because on the one extreme we have your, like I always said, your granddaddy's NRA, which is placating some people, I think. And then you have on the other end of the spectrum, the great people that have done all the tactical stuff. And some, basically the majority of people are in the middle and they can't relate with
Right.
either. So
Right.
we just like to take the information and present it in a way that is relatable to people, and just working with them in that way, as opposed to getting caught up in our ego in one way and say, oh, you can't do it as fast as I can, you're worthless. That's not true, right?
Right.
So without the ego, with the humility of just like, hey, we're just people like you, we're just trying to do the right thing. And yes, you can do these advanced things if you apply yourself and you put in the sweat, but you can do
Right.
this.
Right. I absolutely love it. So where can people get more information about you? And I'm sure if we have a groundswell of interest all over the nation in major cities, now all of a sudden you're on a plane and you're doing trainings.
Well, on the latter, I'd be absolutely excited. But on the first question, certainly people can look us up online at our website, which is trbtraining.com. And all of our contact information is there. You can also look us up on the various affiliated websites from USCCA, NRA, and places like that. So that's where you can find our contact information, the things that we do, and who we are.
That's awesome. And I assume you're on social media as well, and people
Yes.
can follow you there.
Yes, and we are, our handle on Instagram is TRB Training. Our YouTube is Tap Right Bang Training. So if you go into any of the social medias and put TRB Training or Tap Right Bang Training, we're going to pop up. And we do have a YouTube channel that is a lot of fun. We do a lot of videos. We drop a video every Tuesday, whether it be a training tip, a gear review, or something that is a tip to help people get better, or to take a look at their firearms or get gear and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of cool things on that YouTube channel.
That's awesome. We
Yeah.
we'll actually we haven't talked about this. I'll blindside you, but maybe we'll work out something to be able to post those up on ATF Plus as well.
Sure. We
So
also have, forgive me for interrupting, but we
mm,
also have our IG Live every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Me and one of my guys, Brendan, we jump on IG Live and we change up topics every week. And we talk about, just informally, we talk about certain things. We goof around a little bit. It's a lot of fun. I'm usually drinking whiskey and talking about
I love
guns, and it's
I
just
love it.
a good time.
Hey,
So
pop a cigar in your mouth while you're doing it. And you
there
got
you
the
go.
trifecta, buddy. I
There
love
you
it.
go. There you go. I
All
will.
right. Well, listen, Ernie, I can't thank you enough for sharing time with us and sharing your message and all the good work that you're doing out there. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing for America. I love that you're pursuing your American dream. So keep up the good work, my man. And there's no doubt we'll have you on again.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the time today.